Husband insists on having kids, but his inability to share burdens and support my health challenges makes me consider divorce instead. My husband and I have been together for 8 years, married for the last 3. It feels like these little things keep stacking up between us, and I'm at this crossroads where I'm not even sure how to begin addressing it all. He wants kids, wants them soon, but I can't bring myself to trust that he'd genuinely support me. I keep asking myself, do I put in the work to save us, or is it time to walk away? My health's been a battle lately. Just in the last year, I've had 3 separate surgeries trying to fix what's wrong inside me. Even before all that, for 4 years now I've lived with chronic health issues, constant pain, appointments, and days where I'm dragging myself through shifts. Our sex life has withered since I got sick, dropping to maybe once or twice a month. He complains it's not enough, says he feels rejected, and claims it's worsening his mental health. But if we try for kids, there will be plenty of time when sex is off the table, especially while I'm recovering. So what then? My job consumes most of my life. I work 5 or 6 nights a week, 12-hour shifts in healthcare. I've become the primary breadwinner, while he bounces from job to job, and not long ago, he was unemployed for over a year. He told me he was job hunting, but I found out he wasn't even applying. 6 months without filling out a single application, not even the positions I lined up through connections. That led to a massive fight. I drew a line: if he didn't have a job by the end of the month, I was leaving, and he could figure out the bills himself. Within a week, surprise, back working at his old job. But nothing else changed. I still handle all the cooking, cleaning, keeping our household from falling apart. My days off are basically recovery marathons, 3 or 4 hours spent putting the house in order just so I can manage my coming week. Even while he was out of work, he'd spend his days holed up in another room gaming while I slept. I'd wake up to find laundry undone or the cat litter box untouched. He keeps bringing up wanting children. Yet with my health issues, pregnancy would almost certainly mean bed rest, high-risk complications, endless doctor visits. I'd have to take off work, maybe for a long time, and the thought terrifies me. I don't think I could count on him to actually support me. I'm questioning if I even want kids with him anymore. He tries to reassure me, saying he gets a settlement every month and that would cover things if my income stopped during pregnancy. But his payout barely amounts to a quarter of what I make in 2 weeks. I feel more like his mother than his wife, as if having a kid would simply transform me into a married single mom. I've suggested therapy, individual, couples, anything to try and address our issues. He brushes it off, claims therapy never helped him before. When I float the idea of antidepressants or similar medication, he refuses to take a daily pill. I'm running out of ways to reach him. I keep going back to this wild idea, writing down absolutely everything I do, bill payments, chores, hours at work, and having him swap roles with me for a month. Then, and only then, ask him if he still thinks we're ready for kids. Let me unpack a few things I know people might wonder about. I work these long hours for a reason, to pile up paid time off and sick days so I have a cushion for surgery recoveries and days when my body simply won't cooperate. FMLA only covers 60% of my wages. Overtime, however, pays even more and double accrues PTO, plus a bonus for every extra shift. I've been at this hospital since 2015, working my way up from CNA to phlebotomist, and finally to RN in 2020. Seniority means something in a union, and it's paid off. Night shift is my groove because it gives me flexibility, and the hospital is understanding about my health restrictions. The shift differential bumps up my pay by $6 an hour, and that adds up fast. As for all those surgeries, 3 were laparoscopic, with recoveries ranging from a week to a month, depending. The middle one was rough. Removing a lesion linking my intestines to my abdominal wall and a cyst on my ovary kept me out for a full month, with another month on limited activity. I have a 4th surgery coming up to remove my gallbladder and will need another week or 2, at least, to heal. Before this past year, I'd never had surgery, unless you count endless GI scopes, pelvic floor testing, CTs, MRIs, labs, you name it, I've probably done it. Each new course of medications means dietary changes and a waiting game for gradual improvement. And when it comes time to go off my birth control implant, it'll take oversight from at least 3 different doctors. After our fight, I blocked all my husband's accounts, plus those of his friends I knew about. I feel myself getting angrier whenever I lay this out. Maybe if he saw it all written down, it might finally wake him up. Our wedding was derailed in 2020 like so many others. We rescheduled for late 2021, just to salvage our deposits. He quit his job about 2 months after we finally got married. It's not like my house would collapse if I missed doing laundry for a day or 2. I have plenty of clean clothes and scrubs for work, and sometimes I even find meal prepping relaxing. Yet I'm never allowed to relax. There is always more to do, and it always falls to me. At the end of the day, I know I'm not perfect. I'm just a woman trying to survive with a body that doesn't always cooperate and a relationship that feels more and more like another job. The truth is, sometimes love leads people to make mistakes and push themselves too far for the sake of someone else. And maybe, just maybe, it's time I finally choose myself. Update 1. A few days ago, I had my surgery, and with some unexpected time off, I decided it was finally time to share where everything now stands. The pain medication makes everything fuzzy, but my mind has been racing regardless, and maybe writing it all down will bring some clarity. Last week I spoke with my lawyer. We're moving ahead, he'll draft the necessary papers, and the plan is for my husband to be formally served when he gets back from his work trip in 2 weeks. During one of my days off, I felt it was time to have a real, honest conversation about our marriage. My anxiety wouldn't let me sleep, so I spent the night turning the house upside down, cleaning every surface, anything to keep my mind from spiraling. When he woke up that morning, I had breakfast prepared and kept things light at first, but I was shaking inside. The small talk felt like we were walking on glass. Finally, I asked the question echoing inside me for months, "Are you happy with us? With the way things are? Because it feels like we're just roommates, not even a couple anymore." He stared at his coffee for a long moment before answering, "I don't think either of us have been happy for a while. I do still love you, I want to raise children with you, you'll be a great mom. But there's something I've been meaning to talk to you about." That's when he started referencing his friends in another city who had trouble after one came out as ace and how opening their relationship had saved their marriage. He explained he'd joined some groups online, support groups for poly people in monogamous relationships, trying to find the courage to talk to me about opening up ours. With how much I'm traveling for work, it'd be just every couple of weeks. I'm always in another city, you'd never meet anyone, and you've talked about travel contracts, so you could do the same. I was floored. He kept going on about how it could even be an unconventional way to have a child. We could have a surrogate this way. Or adopt, like you always wanted. It would be just like that. I could barely take it, and I blurted out, "Did you get someone pregnant? Is this your way of telling me you cheat when you travel?" He denied it, saying, No, it just felt nice to be wanted. There was a girl at a bar who flirted with me. Then he showed me the support group chats on his phone, messages from the last few weeks. I let him finish his pitch before I told him flat. This proved we'd been over for a while. Hearing him talk about wanting to be with other people snuffed out any lingering feelings I might have had. I told him I was done. We're not in love. Our lives are headed in different directions. We both want kids, yes, but our visions for the future don't line up anymore. There was a strange stillness after that. I asked him to move out, and he didn't seem shocked at all. I couldn't bear to stay in the house, so I left him in the kitchen and drove straight to my friend's place. She's going through her own divorce, her ex's porn addiction nearly ruined her, and we spent the day drinking, eating ice cream, and letting my emotions run wild from tears to laughter to yelling. She gave me her lawyer's info, and I had an appointment set up by the end of the week. When I finally went back home, most of his things were gone. His side of the closet, his cat, random bathroom stuff, even a few wedding photos had disappeared. The house feels so empty now, much more than just his absence on a work trip. My toothbrush is lonely. The garage looks huge, meals feel like a job for one rather than two. The bed feels colder. I miss his presence, I miss having someone to come home to, and I'll admit, the last 7 days have been nothing but tears and heartbreak. For days we didn't speak. It was his mom who reached out first, wanting to check on me and see if there was anything she could do. Our relationship meant a lot, I'm honestly going to miss her. We share similar dietary issues for entirely different reasons, and she has always been my food adventure buddy for brunches and little cafe dates. She invited me out for coffee, and I went. We danced around the heavy subject until the divorce inevitably came up. She filled me in on how he's doing, that he moved back onto their sprawling 60-acre family property, into one of the 4 houses there. He's barely getting out of bed. She's worried, hoping for a reconciliation. Maybe counseling? I told her I'd begged for that for a year, and he'd always said no. That silence, I can't forget it. I was drowning and he never reached out to help, and now that I want out, suddenly he cares. She asked me, gently, if I still loved him. I told her I did love who he was, but too much hurt and loneliness had replaced my love for him now. I couldn't keep taking care of him like a child, couldn't keep being the sole provider or feeling so unsupported. We ended up crying together, clinging to the last threads of our relationship as family, and she gave me the biggest, warmest hug before we said goodbye. He finally reached out and came by the house the next day. It was awkward, he came for a hug, and I let him, but when he moved in for a kiss, I turned so he caught my cheek. We talked honestly for the first time in ages about everything that led us here. He apologized, he listed all the details I wish he'd realized a year ago, not helping around the house, relying too much on me, not pulling his weight. He said he's applying for a new job, something that doesn't require travel and is in his actual field. He updated me on his cat, struggling with the new place. I told him he'd have papers in a few weeks. He couldn't look at me after that. I helped him gather the last odds and ends before he left once more, and then I got ready for my appointment with the lawyer, letting everything settle over me like a heavy, necessary peace. When I spoke with my lawyer, we discussed what the divorce process would actually look like. Unless he decides he wants the house, my plan is to buy his half out. If I go down that road, there's a really good chance I won't have to pay alimony, unless he decides to fight me on it. From a legal perspective, he actually has the potential to make more than I do, so my lawyer is pretty confident that I won't have to pay either way. We don't have any children, unless you count fur babies, and recently I even took a pregnancy test, just to be sure that wasn't complicating things. Thankfully, I got confirmation that isn't a factor at all. Both of us own our own cars and handle the payments separately. We do have a joint savings account, but I have all the proof showing I've been the only one adding any money for the last 2 years. With that evidence, it's likely that I'll get most of what's in there. For now, according to my lawyer's advice, I'm not touching it except to use it for house bills. I'm hoping soon I'll have the paperwork ready for my soon-to-be ex to fill out, and maybe he'll have a lawyer review it too. In the meantime, my 2 cats have hardly left my side. They curl up with me every night, trying to comfort me since he left. They know I need it, but it's still so hard. One of my friends is also going through a divorce, and she keeps telling me that we're going to have a hot girl summer together. It actually makes me laugh to hear her say it, but deep down, I know I'm nowhere near ready for that. I don't want to meet new people. I don't want to go on awkward first dates. I think I'm just going to be single for a while. When I told my parents about the divorce, my mom sent me this poem that makes me cry every time I read it. I've learned so much from this relationship, and right now I'm surprisingly content with the idea of being the old, crazy cat lady for the foreseeable future. I will never love the same after you. I was always the girl that loved so hard that it hurt, until it hurt. I watched you change every day until you eventually became someone I told myself I would never settle for. But how do I leave you? I told myself it was just a rough patch and we can work through this. I will do more to make you love me again. Because I don't give up on people. So why would I do that to you? I will put myself through hell for you, I will hate myself to love you, and I will rip myself apart so that you feel cared for. Because I was serious when I said I would die for you, because I almost did. I guess I ripped myself apart so much that I had nothing left. I cared so much about you that I stopped caring about myself completely. I lost who I was and I was no longer strong, and I watched myself change every day until I eventually became someone I told myself I'd never be. But it's my fault for not having a limit on how much I'm willing to give, and for how long I'm willing to stay. And for loving you more than I loved me. Because I loved you so hard that it hurt. So I will never love the same after you. I will never love the same after you by Ali Harding. Reading those words makes everything ache and heal at the same time. I don't know what comes next, or when I'll truly feel whole. But for now, I'm taking the time I need, surrounded by my beloved cats, finally looking out for myself, maybe for the first time in a long while. Update 2. It's been 3 weeks since my last post, and honestly, I wasn't planning on writing another update. But something happened yesterday that turned everything upside down, and I need to get this out of my head before I lose my mind completely. The divorce papers were served 2 days ago. He texted me afterward, just a simple got them. We should talk. I ignored it. I've been doing well, actually. My gallbladder surgery recovery went smoothly, I've been picking up extra shifts, and my cats have become my emotional support squad. I even started seeing a therapist, something I'd been putting off for years because I was always too busy taking care of everyone else. But then yesterday happened. I was at the grocery store after a long shift, still in my scrubs, when I saw her. A woman I didn't recognize was standing by the pharmacy, and she looked familiar somehow. She was obviously pregnant, maybe 6 or 7 months along, with this distinctive red hair that caught my attention. When she turned around, I could see she was crying. Something made me approach her. Maybe it was the nurse in me, or maybe I just recognized the look of someone falling apart in public. I asked if she was okay, and she looked at me with these devastated eyes and said, "Are you his wife?" My blood went cold. Whose wife? She said my husband's name. I'm still shaking as I write this. Her name is Jessica, and she's been seeing my husband for 8 months. 8 months. She met him at that bar he mentioned, the one where someone just flirted with him. Except it wasn't just flirting. She went home with him that night, and it's been going on ever since. The baby is his. She thought I knew. She thought we had some kind of arrangement because he told her we were working things out and that I was okay with him seeing other people while we figured things out. He showed her those same support group messages, convinced her we were heading toward an open marriage. She believed him when he said I was too sick and too busy to care about his needs. Jessica found out about the divorce papers when she saw them on his kitchen counter yesterday. That's when she realized he'd been lying to her this entire time. She was at the pharmacy getting prenatal vitamins when I found her, trying to figure out what to do next. We ended up talking for 2 hours in my car in that parking lot. She's 25, works as a teacher, and thought she'd found someone who genuinely cared about her. He told her he loved her. He told her he wanted to leave me for her, but that he needed to time it right because of my health issues. He promised her they'd raise the baby together. When she confronted him yesterday about the divorce papers, he panicked. Told her the baby wasn't his responsibility, that it was just sex and she should have been more careful. When she reminded him about all his promises, he said she'd misunderstood the situation. I felt sick listening to her, but not because I was jealous. I was sick because I recognized every manipulation tactic, every lie. This is what he does. He finds someone vulnerable and makes them feel special until they're completely dependent on his version of reality. Jessica asked me if I hate her. How could I? She's a victim here too. She had no idea about the real state of our marriage, about how he'd been refusing therapy or any real effort to fix things. She thought she was saving a lonely man from a loveless marriage. I gave her my lawyer's information. If the baby is his, and based on the timeline, it definitely could be, she'll need legal help for child support. I also told her everything about our marriage, about his patterns, about how he quits jobs and avoids responsibility. She deserves to know what she's dealing with. The strangest part? I feel relieved. All those months of wondering if I was crazy, if I was asking for too much, if I was the problem, suddenly it all makes sense. The way he'd come home from work trips different, more distant. The way he'd guard his phone. The sudden interest in opening our marriage right when I was at my most vulnerable. I called him last night. Didn't even give him a chance to speak. Jessica's pregnant. The silence stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. I can explain. No. You can't. There's no explanation that makes this okay. You cheated on me for 8 months while I was going through surgeries, while I was supporting us, financially, while I was begging you to work on our marriage. And you got her pregnant. He started crying then, saying it was a mistake, that he never meant for it to happen, that he loved me and wanted to work things out. He said Jessica was just a distraction and that he'd end things with her immediately. I laughed. Actually laughed. You already did end things with her. The second she found out about the divorce papers. You told her the baby wasn't your responsibility. More silence. I'm not fighting the divorce anymore, he finally said. But I need you to know I never wanted it to end like this. You didn't want to get caught, I corrected him. There's a difference. I hung up and immediately called my lawyer. We're moving forward with everything, and now we have grounds for adultery if we need them. My lawyer says it strengthens my position significantly, especially since there's a child involved that proves the timeline of his infidelity. His mother called me this morning. She'd heard about Jessica from someone, small towns, you know. She was sobbing, apologizing, saying she had no idea. She asked if there was any chance we could work through this. I told her gently that some things can't be fixed, and this is one of them. But I also told her that if the baby is his, she's going to be a grandmother, and that child deserves to have good people in their life. She cried harder after that. I'm angry, but not in the way I expected. I'm angry that he wasted so much of my time. I'm angry that he made me doubt myself for months. I'm angry that he put my health at risk by sleeping around while we were still intimate. But I'm not heartbroken anymore. That feeling died the moment he suggested opening our marriage, and now I know why. My therapist says it's normal to feel relieved when the truth finally comes out, even when it's ugly. She says I've been grieving this marriage for a lot longer than I realized. Jessica texted me today asking if we could meet for coffee. She wants to know more about him, about what to expect. I said yes. I think we both need to understand who we were really dealing with all this time. The house feels different now. Not empty, peaceful. My cats are less anxious. I'm sleeping better than I have in months. Sometimes the truth hurts, but lies hurt so much worse, and for so much longer. I don't know what comes next, but for the first time in years, I'm excited to find out. Update 3. I thought the Jessica situation was the end of the drama, but I was so wrong. It's been 6 weeks since my last update, and I honestly don't know where to begin. My life has turned into something I wouldn't believe if someone else told me this story. The coffee meeting with Jessica happened, and it went nothing like I expected. We met at this quiet cafe downtown, and I was prepared to just give her a rundown of his patterns, maybe offer some emotional support, but she had information that changed everything. She brought a folder. Inside were screenshots, receipts, even printed emails going back almost a year. Turns out, my ex wasn't just cheating with her. There were at least 3 other women that she'd found evidence of, maybe more. Jessica had done detective work that would make a Pi proud. I started getting suspicious when he kept canceling our dates, she explained, sliding a printed text conversation across the table. Then I found a receipt in his jacket for dinner at that expensive Italian place downtown. Problem was, he'd told me he was working late that night, and when I asked about dinner, he said he just grabbed fast food. The receipt was dated 2 months ago, for 2 people, and the bill was over $200. I knew it wasn't me. I was recovering from surgery that week and barely eating solid food. Jessica had managed to track down 2 of the other women through social media. Apparently, he'd been using the same story with all of us, that his wife, me, was sick and they were working things out, but that he needed companionship while we figured everything out. One woman, Sarah, had been seeing him for almost 6 months. Another, Megan, had only been involved for a few weeks before she got suspicious and ended things. But here's the kicker, Sarah had also gotten pregnant. She'd had a miscarriage at 12 weeks, just a month before Jessica and I met at the grocery store. Sarah had no idea about Jessica or the other pregnancy. She'd been planning her life around this man who was essentially running a small harem across 3 cities. There might be more, Jessica said quietly. His work travel takes him to 6 different locations regularly. I only found these 3 because we have mutual connections or they'd posted photos that included him. I felt sick, but not emotionally, physically sick. Jessica, when was the last time you 2 were intimate? 2 weeks ago. Why? I started calculating dates in my head. The last time my ex and I had been together was about 3 weeks ago, right before I found out about the divorce papers. We need to get tested. All of us. That afternoon, Jessica called Sarah, and we set up a group chat. Sarah was devastated. She'd been grieving what she thought was their baby, their future together. Finding out about the rest of us shattered her all over again. But Sarah had something the rest of us didn't: access to his work schedule and hotel information. She'd been planning to surprise him on his birthday next month by showing up at his hotel in Denver. Instead, she offered to do surveillance. I know how this sounds. I know we should have just walked away and let lawyers handle everything. But there was something about the scope of his lies that made us all feel like we needed to know the full truth. Jessica was pregnant and needed to understand what kind of father her child might have. Sarah was still emotionally invested and needed closure. And me? I needed to know if there was more that could affect the divorce proceedings. So we planned what we jokingly called Operation Reality Check. Sarah went to Denver as planned, but instead of surprising him with a romantic evening, she followed him. What she found was devastating and perfect at the same time. He met up with not one, but two different women during his 3-day trip. One was clearly someone he'd been seeing for a while. They had dinner, went back to his hotel, very relationship-like behavior. The other meeting was obviously a hookup. They met at a bar, she went to his room for a few hours, then left. Sarah got photos, but more importantly, she got him on video. She confronted him in the hotel lobby the next morning, and he completely fell apart, started crying, begging her not to tell me, promising he'd end things with everyone else if she'd just give him another chance. She recorded the whole conversation. I love you, Sarah, this is all just. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'll get help, I'll fix this. Just don't tell my wife, please. I'll lose everything. When Sarah told him about Jessica's pregnancy, he denied it was his. When she mentioned there were other women, he broke down completely and admitted to maybe 4 or 5 relationships over the past year. The recording is devastating. Not just because of what he admits to, but because you can hear how manipulative he is even while confessing. He's calculating what to say to keep Sarah on his side, what lies might still work. We sent everything to my lawyer immediately. My ex had been claiming in divorce proceedings that I was being unreasonable, that our marriage could be saved if I'd just try harder. Now we had evidence of systematic infidelity with multiple partners over nearly a year. But the story doesn't end there. 3 days after Sarah's Denver trip, my ex showed up at my house at 2 a.m. I only answered the door because I thought it might be a medical emergency. He never comes by unannounced, especially not at that hour. He was drunk and sobbing. Sarah told me, "You all know everything," he slurred. "I need you to understand, I never meant for any of this to happen." I stood in my doorway in my pajamas, looking at this man I'd spent 8 years with, and felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no sadness, just emptiness. "How many?" I asked. "What? How many women, total?" He couldn't look at me. "I don't know. Maybe 7? 8? Some were just one-time things. 8 women. Minimum." While I was working 60-hour weeks, going through surgeries, begging him to go to counseling, he was maintaining relationships with at least 8 other people. "Did you use protection?" I asked. The silence was answer enough. "I got tested the next day. Clean, thankfully, but the doctor wanted to run follow-up tests in 3 months to be completely sure. My lawyer says the evidence we have is so overwhelming that we can basically write our own terms for the divorce. He's not going to fight anything. He can't, not with video evidence of him admitting to multiple affairs. But here's the plot twist that nobody saw coming. Jessica's ultrasound last week revealed she's having twins. Twins that my ex will be financially responsible for, assuming paternity tests confirm what we all know. Sarah has decided to pursue him for emotional damages related to her miscarriage and the stress of his lies. The woman from Denver that Sarah photographed has apparently hired her own lawyer after Sarah reached out to warn her. My ex has gone completely silent. He's not returning calls from any of us, his lawyer, or even his own mother. His mom called me yesterday, worried because no one has heard from him in over a week. I'm concerned he might hurt himself, honestly. The scope of what he's done, the legal and financial consequences he's facing, it's overwhelming. I called for a welfare check, and police found him at his parents' property, but he was fine, just hiding from reality. The strangest part of all this is how close Jessica, Sarah, and I have become. We've been meeting weekly for coffee, supporting each other through this mess. Sarah's started therapy and is doing much better. Jessica's pregnancy is progressing well, and we've even talked about me being involved as an aunt figure if she wants that. We call ourselves the Survivors Club, which sounds dramatic but feels appropriate. None of us were prepared for the level of deception we were dealing with. The divorce should be finalized within the next month. I'm keeping the house, the savings, everything. He'll be paying child support for twins, potentially facing lawsuits from multiple women, and his reputation in our small town is completely destroyed. And me? I'm actually doing better than I have in years. My health is stable, work is going well, and I've started dating someone new, a fellow nurse who knows my whole story and still thinks I'm worth pursuing. It's early, but he's kind and honest and everything my ex never was. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if Jessica hadn't recognized me at that grocery store. Would I have ever found out the truth? Would I have spent years wondering why our marriage felt so empty, blaming myself for not being enough? I guess I'll never know. But I'm grateful for the truth, even as messy and painful as it's been. The lies were so much worse than anything reality could throw at me.